I never meant for the words to slip out. But once they did, there was no taking them back. It was supposed to be a normal dinner, a quiet evening at home with my husband, Ethan. The soft glow of candlelight flickered over the table, the aroma of roasted garlic and rosemary filling the air. His deep green eyes met mine across the table as he poured me a glass of wine. And then, I said it. I think my ex still has an influence on me. The moment the words left my lips, I felt the air between us shift. The warmth in Ethan's eyes flickered, just for a second, but it was enough. A storm was brewing behind them, silent but undeniable. He set his wine glass down with deliberate slowness. What? I swallowed hard, feeling the sudden tightness in my chest. I mean, it's not like I still love him or anything. It's just, he was a huge part of my life for so long. I hesitated. I guess some part of me still carries that. Ethan's expression didn't change. He was always calm, always composed. But I knew better than to mistake his silence for indifference. When did you last talk to him? His voice was steady. Too steady. I hesitated. A few weeks ago. Ethan leaned back, exhaling through his nose. And you didn't think to mention this before? I didn't think it mattered. My own voice wavered, betraying me. He let out a short, humorless chuckle. Right. So it just slipped your mind that your ex, who apparently still has some hold on you, reached out. I opened my mouth to respond, but before I could, he stood up. The scrape of his chair against the hardwood was deafening. I need some air. He grabbed his keys from the counter, his knuckles white. Don't wait up. And just like that, he was gone. I sat there, staring at the untouched meal in front of me, my heartbeat thundering in my ears. I had no idea what I had just set in motion. Ethan didn't come home that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind a tangled mess of regret and dread. I knew I had hurt him, but I hadn't expected him to just leave. He wasn't the type to storm off, not like this. He was the kind of man who worked through things logically, who always kept his emotions in check. But I had struck a nerve. And that terrified me. By morning, my nerves were raw. I called him, straight to voicemail. Sent a text, no reply. Then, around noon, the front door creaked open. Ethan stepped inside, looking like he hadn't slept. His clothes were wrinkled, his jaw was clenched, and there was an unfamiliar darkness in his eyes. Where were you? I asked cautiously, my voice barely above a whisper. He ignored the question, tossing his keys onto the counter with a loud clatter. Did you love him more than me? His voice was dangerously low. My stomach dropped. What? No. Of course not. Then why the hell did you say that last night? I took a shaky breath. I don't know. It just came out. I didn't mean. You didn't mean what, Olivia? He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. You didn't mean to admit that you've been thinking about him? That maybe I'm just some second-place consolation prize? That's not fair, I whispered, my eyes stinging. What's not fair, he cut in, is that I've spent years loving you, trusting you, thinking we had something real, only for you to sit across from me at dinner and tell me that another man still has a hold on you. I shook my head, my hands trembling. I didn't mean it like that. He's just a ghost, Ethan. A memory. That's all. Ethan let out a bitter laugh. Yeah? Then why does it feel like he's still in this house? The accusation hit me like a slap. I opened my mouth to protest, but before I could speak, my phone buzzed on the counter. The sound was deafening in the thick silence. Ethan's gaze flicked to the screen. And then, I saw it, the exact moment his expression changed. Because right there, lighting up my phone, was a name that should never have been there. Nathan. My ex. Ethan's jaw tightened, his face paling, before it turned a dangerous shade of red. You're still talking to him? His voice was ice. No, I said quickly. I haven't answered. I swear. But Ethan wasn't listening. He grabbed the phone, his fingers tightening around it as his eyes scanned the unread message. I saw the muscle in his jaw tick, the tension in his shoulders locking into something unreadable. And then, without a word, he tossed my phone onto the floor. It shattered. You want to talk to him so badly? Go ahead. His voice was eerily calm. But don't expect me to be here when you're done. My breath hitched. You don't mean that. He held my gaze for a long, agonizing moment. Then he turned, walking toward the door. Panic seized me. Ethan, wait. He didn't. The door slammed behind him, the sound rattling through my chest like a warning. And that was the moment I knew, I had just lost the one thing I never thought I'd lose. The sound of the door slamming echoed in my chest, vibrating through the walls, through my bones, through everything I thought was stable in my life. I stood frozen, staring at the shattered pieces of my phone scattered across the floor, as if they held the answer to fixing this mess. I wanted to run after him. But something held me back. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was fear. Or maybe it was the terrible realization that this wasn't just about one stupid comment over dinner. This had been coming for a long time. I sank onto the couch, my hands pressed against my temples, trying to stop the pounding in my head. Memories flooded in, unbidden and merciless. Nathan. My first love. The one I thought I'd spend my life with. He was charming, magnetic, intoxicating in all the ways that made it easy to overlook the cracks beneath the surface. I thought what we had was passion. Fire. The kind of love that burned so bright it left scars. And it did. Nathan never struck me, never raised a hand. But his words? They cut deeper than any wound. He made me feel small, insecure, like I had to prove my worth every single day just to keep him from slipping through my fingers. And yet, I stayed. Because I thought I could fix him. Because I thought love was supposed to be that hard. Ethan was different. Ethan was safety, steady hands, quiet strength. He didn't make me prove my worth, he made me believe in it. He gave me a love that wasn't a storm, but a home. And yet, here I was. Ruining it. I didn't know how long I sat there, trapped in the prison of my own thoughts. But then the sound of my front door creaking open jolted me back to the present. Ethan. He had come back. I shot to my feet, relief flooding me, only to freeze at the sight of his expression. This wasn't the Ethan who kissed me goodnight, who made me laugh when I was spiraling, who held my hand under the dinner table just because he wanted to feel close to me. This Ethan was a stranger. His eyes were red-rimmed, his posture stiff, his face unreadable. And in his hand was a crumpled piece of paper. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The air between us was thick, charged, as if one wrong move could shatter everything. What's that? I finally asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He unfolded the paper with slow, deliberate precision, then held it out to me. I stepped forward, my fingers trembling as I took it. My stomach twisted into knots as I read the first few words. Petition for dissolution of marriage. I looked up at him, my vision blurring. My voice broke. You went to a lawyer? He exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. No. Not yet. But I was close. I felt like I was going to be sick. Ethan, I whispered. Please. He let out a bitter laugh. Please what, Olivia? He gestured between us. Please pretend that nothing's broken? That I didn't just find out my wife is still tethered to a man who destroyed her? I flinched. I'm not, I said desperately. Nathan doesn't control me. I don't want him, I swear. Then why did you say it? His voice was raw now, all the pain cracking through the surface. Why, out of nowhere, would you tell me that your ex still has an influence on you? I opened my mouth, but the truth clogged my throat. Because I had never truly faced it. Because I had buried so much of it deep inside, hoping that if I ignored it long enough, it would disappear. I sucked in a shaky breath. Because I never dealt with it, Ethan. I forced myself to meet his eyes. Because a part of me still feels like the girl who wasn't enough. The girl who had to fight for love. And sometimes, when I look at us, when I see how easy it is, some twisted part of me wonders if I even deserve it. Ethan inhaled sharply, his jaw tightening. He turned away, his hands gripping the back of the chair as if he needed something to hold him up. Silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. And then, so quietly I almost didn't hear it, he spoke. I always thought I was the one lucky to have you. A choked sound escaped me. He turned back around, and the exhaustion in his expression nearly broke me. I don't know how to fight this, Olivia. I don't know how to fight something that isn't even here. I love you, but I can't spend my life competing with a ghost. Tears slid down my cheeks. I don't want you to. Then prove it. His voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried the weight of everything. Prove to me that I'm not just the man you settled for. And there it was. The moment where everything hung in the balance. I could keep running. Keep pretending. Keep letting my past dictate my future. Or I could finally choose. Not Nathan. Not the pain, the wounds, the years wasted on trying to fix something unfixable. But Ethan. Us. I walked toward him, slowly, cautiously, as if every step was a promise. And when I reached him, I didn't just say the words. I showed him. I reached for his hand, lacing my fingers through his. I choose you, Ethan. I choose us. For the first time that night, something in his face softened. It wouldn't be easy. There was work to do, wounds to heal, trust to rebuild. But as he pulled me into his arms, holding me like he was terrified to let go, I knew one thing for certain. Some love stories don't start with fireworks. Some start with a slow, quiet burn. And those? Those are the ones worth fighting for.